Those of you who have been watching for a while or who will go back and check history will realize I wanted to come back to Colorado for a long time before I made it back. A lot of planning. Once it was settled and I was coming back, I wanted to go to Adams State University just to kill time and figure out why Beverly McClure was recommended by Bill Richardson and became the first woman president of Adams State University. Well, it was the connection to the Epstein thing, and I found out that and much more. We maybe go over some of that. Now I have a question. If you have a go bag, does your wife have a go bag? If your wife has a go bag, what's in it? Hair dye? Fake nails? What do you got? Tampons, I hope. But Prozac, maybe? I mean, you know why I wanted to come back to Colorado? Because I knew the world was going to end up like this. I told everybody, right? Beat peace. Everybody knows that this was going to go down. It was going to happen like this. It's going to be hard at first, but we'll get used to it because they'll be busy in the cities, and the survivors will be the people who, like myself, work themselves back into a position where they'll be safe when this happens. The President of the United States has said, we're going to end the civilization tonight unless they comply. We're going to end a civilization? How does that even enter somebody's mind? The facade is torn away. The whole civilization will die. But President Trump doesn't want it to happen. They can fix it there in Iran. It's been 47 years where they've been 2 weeks away from a fake acquisition of a fake atomic weapon. Welcome everybody to Mud Flood was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Or if they want to, you know, the first channel was called Flat Earth Nation Golden Age Past. It was a work in progress, but I didn't want it to get canceled. Nobody wants that. No, I didn't. Aloha. I think I have something pulled up, Mr. Zach Mack. The Lord, I think, has jogged your memory to find those pictures, and you went like, oh, I remember. There's another caged off entrance to a mountain. I got that picture pulled up. I think we're going to look at it right now after I show you this thing. Nope, nope. Did I do it right? Am I showing you the thing? I think I am. Nope. I've got it. Would you act like you've done this before, Paco? It's like 5,000, 6,000 shows over the last 10 years. There's that thing. Here's the pictures. I wanted to get right to them. Ooh, they're kind of. So here's something I think you sent me, Mr. Zach Mack, by you. Look at that. No, there is no. It's just one of the many holes in the wall that they're finding. Hey, did you know some of the mysterious stone huts of the San Luis Valley? Now, the Ute and the Apache, the people who hung out here, Paiutes too, a lot of people came to the Mystic Blanca, the mountain. But they say hobbits, that this was a hobbit house. That's another hobbit house. That's what they didn't call them hobbits, but short people. I guess in the winter you stack up the long branches and put the snow around it. Get a little fire. It looks like this on the inside. It reminds me of an igloo. If you're small, I guess it's okay, but for me, I'd be kind of looking for, store your food at the base of the mountain, have a place where you can run to and say, "Oh, mountains are going to melt like wax. I'll be ready in here." Well, I have a feeling if they made it, if they were safe, it's a good place to hide. This is not, it's not Cappadocia. Those are not the chimney. This is the Rio Grande. I live right by that river. Doesn't it look like it? And they hollowed them out and lived in them too. Bandelier coming on strong. This Bandelier National Monument, it's right over the border from where I live. I live on the Colorado side. When I go from the border of southern Colorado into Mexico, well, I live on the I live in Colorado side. I don't get, even though it's only like 40 miles, I don't get down there all that often. I mean, I've been in school, but now that's coming to an end, and it's the world of civilization might come to an end. I used to live near here. My dad was so busy stealing copper when he was a union electrician. They'd bring home the scraps and burn it off. They were free. They didn't care. They're laying a mile of copper. The guys would bring home, you know, 4 strands of 6 inches a night in their lunch boxes. That looks like that St. Christopher cross, the one that they can use it like a plumb bob. If you hold it in the string, if there's a string in the middle and you hold it on the middle or you hold it on the end, you can get many different angles. I wouldn't say that's how like a cross representing you. It's a Jesus died on it. Zach, I can't tell you how happy I'm going to be when I find 10 of these that isn't a national park. They're out there. I know they are. But, most people don't get off the beaten path. That's a body part. Look at that. Look at that. That's something. Melted like wax over a body part. Bandolier. What's that song? Bandoliers coming on strong. That's not the words, but it sounds like bandolier. I know it's Radar Love. So here's a guy that is trying to explain it. Here's post-millennialism. The church will establish the kingdom on earth before Christ returns. You see, when people that study the Bible and go to school and look at their Bible, they know what I was teaching, premillennialism, got hijacked by the demon casting out Atlanta crew. And for 5 of the last years, they were calling it postmillennialism, preterism, confusing everyone in the world almost. You've seen all these. You seen this one? You know that the nations are going to all be Christianized. Okay, so I think he leans that way. Hey, I was looking at Paco the Spaceman. They're saying there's no way that if you just look at this objectively, that it's not the mask of a, well, you can see it's a mask. There's his teeth and fangs, but they say it's a fire coming out of an engine. He's not staring at a pineal gland right there in a baby infant type pose. Oh wait, yeah, he is. Yeah, see, they want you to believe that that's what it is because they're the crazy ones that think it's cool to end civilizations. As far as I know, I still make masks. I can't afford jade, but I make masks out of labradorite. I've made 3 anyway, and they're uh, with a little work, they could be as good as that almost in a different kind of way. Hey, what? Is there a dark side to not wearing a mask? Huh. They're going to beat you to death. You don't get on the train. Look, hey RJ, it's Green Lake, Wisconsin. I don't talk enough about Elizabeth Dilling. Are you infected with brain freeze? So there's a new guy, Vern Manson. He's got a new channel, and he's fitting in a little bit of flat Earth or fundamentalism. Anyway, he's just mentioning. Haven't you heard of the new way of what they're reading the Bible now? Everybody knows it. Everybody's got their own take on short season. I just thought they put this in the middle of nowhere, but it does make music. I don't know if I left it up or not, but it makes the music. There's 3 of them. The original here in Great Britain, one in Texas, and an unknown place in Saudi Arabia. Did you know? Here's what they're trying to manipulate with the DBT cheat sheet. First, they got the mindfulness, interpersonal effectiveness, emotional regulation, de-stress if somebody doesn't like your care and attitude. What I like is they've got all kinds of, anagrams. Dear man, remember, dear man, describe the situation, express your feelings, assert yourself, reinforce the other person. That give them a shit sandwich. Mindful, focus on goals, appear confident, negotiate. Are you sure you want to go to the pizza place tonight again? Fast, give, vitals. I couldn't stand it. These people never put up with it. They got their hands cut off because their dads didn't pick the rubber tree plants fast enough. Then this guy made him do it. That's King Leopold. He never actually went to the Congo, but he was the boss of these people, and he learned pretty quick. I got to quit cutting the hands off of the people that do the work, and I'll cut off the hands of their children, and then make them look at it. Well, see, because this guy here, it's like we can't cut his hand off anymore. We'll cut off his children's hand. That's what people did, and that's what the world is. The world is a place where you have a president of the United States being like, I could end a civilization tonight, because they're only 2 weeks to getting a bomb, a nuclear bomb, which cannot exist if you use their math.
Something that we don't really quite grasp today is that slaves were money. They were a form of cash, and you could use them to pay off your debts, and you could use them to transfer wealth to family members. When Jefferson wanted to raise cash to expand Monticello in the 1790s, he mortgaged 150 of his slaves to a Dutch banking house and essentially took out what we might think of as a slave equity loan. The Dutch bankers opened a $2,000 line of credit.
You know what Jefferson's specialty was? Slaves that looked white. You hear about, oh, he was in love with a slave, Anne Heming. She was 1/16 black. She looked white. They were raping their children, selling their children because they had polluted blood. Anybody that soft sells it any other way, you're part of the fucking problem. From here on out.
Credit for him in Philadelphia, and that's what he used to rebuild Monticello. In 1792, he drew up a profit and loss memo, and he wrote down a formula. He said that the slave population increased at the rate of 4% a year. And he included that 4% increase under the profit column in his memo. It was
our family has had them for generations. And then he goes on to say that basically, until we can figure out what to do about slavery, the best thing we can do is treat them decently, make sure that they're brought up in the church and what have you.
The Methodist Church, John Wesley in particular, was very interested in.
It all led to eugenics, and we cover it up. We act like it never happened. That's the distraction. The war is the distraction. The going to the moon is the distraction to get you vaccinated and forget. You have a limited amount of time. They're taking it back to the tunnels and going to try to kill the rest of the world. The rest of the world wants us dead because of how did 4% of the people in the world, the white people, end up treating everybody else like slaves since Satan has been loosed in 1711.
Years. It left an incredibly powerful legacy and an imprint on the way that we think about the civil rights struggle today.
So what's at stake is what kind of country is the United States going to be? Is it going to be a democracy? Or is it going to be a country in which the newly emancipated black people are still going to be second-class citizens and slaves?
Well, that's the music of it. Anyway, this is how it started. Women's rights, the women's rights, votes for women. They were lesbians that called themselves pastors that were working for theosophists. Please.
The Jim Crow system told them where they could go to the washroom and where they could not go. They told them.
No, it only lasted 120 years after they freed them from 1878 to 1964. That's not even 100 years. And then you could put Bill Cosby on TV because you had pictures of him doing woohoo to people on drugs. Is what he pleaded guilty to. It's why he's not in jail, because he got immunity if he just told the truth. So he did. Yeah, I did it.
Where they could sit.
Not me, he did.
And so on and so forth. So it was a kind of real personal domination that was full of humiliation.
That's why they picked him.
And the linchpin of the terror to keep black people in place was lynching.
His pants are down because they cut his genitals off and sold them to the highest bidder.
By the turn of the 20th century, lynching had become increasingly spectacular and carnivalesque in nature, advertised in advance.
And we got a president tonight that's going to end a whole civilization because they made him mad. This was supposed to not cost a month worth of distraction, or was it? I think the Most High is really in charge. Governor Bilbo? Oh, man.
Hundreds, sometimes thousands of people attending these festivals of violence in which African Americans were burned, mutilated, and tortured as a form of entertainment. Lynching was
Yikes.
a form of terror that scarred the collective psyches of African.
That's why they don't want people to do it, or talk about it, or act like it didn't exist. These guys, it turns out the Booker T. Washingtons, the other ones, they were in on it. They were allowed to live good because they were in the Prince Hall Freemasons.
But of course, there was
all they had to do was, just tell the other people, don't come to my school. We're going to learn how to make peanut butter.
Never going to be any possibility that black facilities, schools, and so on, were going to be separate but equal.
The Plessy decision institutionalized racial inequality in America.
One drop these people, you couldn't tell them if they were black by looking at them. They kept track, just like Aaron and Moses and those guys. One drop rule. It says prominent in the 1900s. Let's look at it in the Wikipedia. It doesn't even give you a date. Well, when did they make it legal? It was just accepted and says some, but I think they mean most. And the other ones didn't, pitch a fit. But have you ever wondered, how did it happen here? Here. But we got the dollar. We got the American dollar. They got the Rothschilds drinking blood, so they say. A high Creole, Colin Powell, they're all connected.
National monument, where thousands of years of erosion have carved the volcanic tuff into slot canyons and strange cone shapes.
A very good quality.
The first dam on the wild, free-flowing Rio Grande is here at Cochiti, where the river is at an elevation of 5,340 feet. Elevation of 5,600
The dams and everything are drying up, so you can get back into these canyons now.
feet. The Rio Chama flows into the Rio Grande. Also a river with its headwaters in southern Colorado, the Chama is popular with rafters and kayakers as it flows gently through colorful desert scenery. Abiquiu Dam on the Rio Chama helps regulate the water flow into the Rio Grande to reduce the chance of flooding.
It's pretty cool.
Rio Grande. Completed in 1916, this dam was built to store water for irrigation. As no other year-round rivers, all farming is dependent on water from the Rio Grande. Miles of channels and canals bring river water to nearly
Wow, what is going to happen? I mean, the world could come to an end tonight, but definitely it looks like they're planning on running out of water. Just a little bit higher quality.
The climb to Alcove House is definitely one of the most unique things I've done in any of our national parks. This 140-foot climb takes you up a series of 4 wooden ladders, each getting progressively longer as you make your way to the top. While I didn't have any problem with the heights aspect, there was multiple people who decided not to continue and stayed at the bottom when they saw the ladders.
You can see that, they could put a ladder over here and go up to these. This is where it would be like, look, I'll check on you in a week. Okay. You're going to be fine. You got food. You got everything. You good? All right. I'll check on you in a week. You guys take care of yourself. You know what to do. Feel free up and down the ladder all you want.
Alcove House is certainly impressive to see, and it once housed over 25 people. They even have a kiva right in the middle, and this is a great spot to take a break before heading the 1 mile back to the visitor center.
And I cannot tell you how nice and cool a cave like that is on a hot desert day. That's where they store the water. What's this one? I'll just show you some pictures of it. There it is. Here's Los Alamos. I'm telling you, this is a busy place. $9,000 feet. More than that. Wow. Let's look at another picture. Okay. Pretty good. Still got some paint on this one, it looks like. So they paint them. Well, yeah, I guess so. All right. Obviously, where there's water, you can take care of a lot of people. You're going to have to take care of yourself, too. What? Who are you? What?
You did not have prior to this derailment. It's because of the derailment.
First thing on most people's minds, I'm guessing, is health. So we'll just do a couple of shows of hands here. Show of hands, how many people here are experiencing long-term health issues? Almost every single one of you. All right, show of hands, how many people are worried about their future and their health? All right, tell me, so this can be anybody, but tell me some of the symptoms that you're experiencing, or we can even just go around and everybody.
It's like they did it on
I've been
purpose.
diagnosed with hypothyroidism. I now get back to chemicals.
Why is this the town that like America forgot?
Because we are a low income community and we are expendable. Every single person that I love starts to come down with illnesses you did not have prior to this derailment. It's because of the derailment.
First thing on.
Okay, we got another one here. What? Panic selling?
The debasement trade really comes into play.
Are they mad because no, this was before the Trump announcement that
long-term assets that are not you can't inflate them. Things like gold and things like Bitcoin, because they're
yeah, just like everything's going to continue as normal. Maybe not. Here's that guy.
Where you're listening to podcasts, you're probably going to get a neo post-millennial viewpoint because that's the order of the day. But in the past, post-millennial.
Yeah, you know what? That Flat Earth Nation Golden Age past brought that neo post-millennial, but he wants to bring it back to what he believes. Don't go with that neo post. I just thought that was
eternal state's going to happen right after that.
Good.
Okay, so what is post-millennialism? What is post-millennialism? So there's a lot of overlap between amillennialism and post-millennialism, but at its core, post-millennialism as it used to be formulated. So I'm going to make some clarifications here, because what nowadays, if you're on YouTube or you're listening to podcasts, you're probably going to get a neo post-millennial viewpoint because that's the order of the day.
Yeah, and it took 5 years to get people to quit calling it post-millennialism. So that, glad that's over.
But in the past, post-millennialism would teach that Christ returns after the millennium, which was usually viewed as a actual 1,000-year reign of the church during the millennium. Okay, so I'm going to put up on the screen here again the viewpoint here. So if you're looking at the screen, post-millennialism, one of the key distinctions here is that the church establishes the kingdom on earth before Christ returns. So there is almost a militant responsibility of the church to establish the kingdom of Christ.
You getting it? You seeing, what are they missing? That the church was established on earth. The gospel was preached to every creature. There was a great falling away. It's described in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 15, when it says, all of Tartaria has departed me. Well, it calls it Asia. It says all of Asia has departed me, but Asia was like, the Hebrews are Oriental. It's an Oriental religion. And Turkey, the 7 churches were written to the 7 churches in where? Tartaria? No, Asia. Stop it with the Tartaria stuff. Oh, wait, I'm the one doing it, and I don't want to stop it. A little bit more of this guy. 2 minutes. Go.
one thing that marks postmillennialists is an ardent belief that, you know, the nations are all going to be Christianized prior to the return of Christ. All right. And that is a belief that's kind of independent of postmillennialism. But one of the things that marks, or one of the reasons that has to be the case for postmillennialism, is because at its core is the belief that things are going to be getting better and better and better overall. And so, as now, amillennialists could believe that and premillennialists could believe that, but as a postmillennialist, you basically have to believe that, because you have to believe things are going to be getting better and better and better, because Christ is going to return at the peak of everything after everything has achieved maximum perfection.
Wow. Was that too much? Have you ever heard, you know, I'll tell you how long I've been dealing with it. And I started working for a post-millennial church, embraced it wholeheartedly, because I was going to a university, a college that was using this as a textbook. I thought it would pop up, but it didn't, as you could tell. But they'll have somebody give me something about it. Because this was not his other book. That was a follow-up book. I guess I have to show it to you on the Wikipedia. It's saying hunger, hunger. Maybe I thought it. Oh, because the book that I ended up reading was an answer to Rich Christians in an Age of Hunger. This is the book that we used. And it was basically, you should greet your enemy with a sign saying, "We love you, don't hurt us." Let's see if there's a summary. What do we got here? Sometimes they don't show you anything. We better look at the back, get a good synopsis from that. Can well-fed Christians understand what it means to be really hungry? Well, no, they're not hungry at all. Probably not. It said, but we must try. This book is a good place to start. Rich Christians in an Age of Hunger. I think the guy's name was, because I met him, what was it, David Chilton? Productive Christians in an Age of Guilt Manipulators. That's what it was called. I think we just called it a shortened title. Productive Christians in a... Oh, yeah. There you go. I wonder if we could get that on a YouTube video, because this is post-millennialism. We're not going to need that anymore. If we don't get something on the first or second try. That's his son. He still is a post-millennialist. David Chilton came to where I worked at Christian Liberty Academy for a number of times. So again, now his father died when he was 40 years old, but his son is a real chip off the old block.
If you're like me, you have a few books in your life that generally changed how you thought, how you felt, and how you acted. One of them for me is The Wealthy Barber. It arrived in my life 36 years ago, and I think of it as sort of this quiet little miracle. There's no charts, there's no jargon, just a simple story set in a barbershop. But a story that helped millions of Canadians, including myself, feel confident with money for the first time. And I wasn't alone. This book has sold millions of copies. I think is Canada's
Wow.
bestseller of all time.
I'm not
And
even sure
because
if that's the
Sabrina-
right Chilton. I wanted to read this. Now, the reason I talked about, does your wife have a go bag? Hope I'm sharing the screen here. Does your wife have a go bag? What's in it? Because there's a day where the Lord's going to take away. So your wife's probably not going to be packing anklets, headbands, crescents, pendants, bracelets, scarves, headdresses, armlets, sashes, perfume boxes, amulets, signet rings, nose rings, festal robes, mantles, cloaks, handbags, mirrors, linen garments, turbans, and veils. Yikes. She'll wish she had perfume. But if you're near the city, you're going to smell it. And then that, whatever they're putting in the air, like they're in Palestine, Ohio, your hair will start falling out. Yikes, man, because it's a judgment.
Who returned to the lava beds of Northern California that they were from, and they dug in there and faced a hugely, overwhelmingly superior force of vigilantes, regular United States Army troops with artillery, and militiamen from both Oregon and California. And finally, he voluntarily surrendered, but the United States Army decided to try him in kind of kangaroo court trial. He was ultimately hanged and then beheaded, and his head was pickled and shipped east to Washington, D.C. to be displayed there.
Well, it's not like Donald Trump invented how to be like, I'm going to end them all. That's what from Jefferson, Andrew Jackson. Wow, all of them. Grant, Roosevelt.
Atlantis. And all of this ended up being paid for first by the state to the tune of more than $1.5 million, almost all to not more than 30,000 survivors. And scholars have long studied this. We've looked at starvation, we've looked at disease, we've looked at displacement. But when I looked at the archives, it became clear that this was in fact a case of state-sponsored genocide. The killings were carried out by 24 separate volunteer state militia expeditions, also by the United States Army, and finally by vigilantes. And all of this ended up being paid for first by the state to the tune of more than $1.5 million, almost all of which was then reimbursed to California by the United States Congress. So we could say that if the state of California were the architects of this man-made catastrophe, the United States government paid for almost all of the killing.
Because it was an offer they couldn't refuse. A group of Freemasons killed everybody. It said, we got gold, we could pay, here's some money, send your people out here, there's plenty of buildings we got to fake like we built. And everybody said, you got them? Are you taken care of? And they said, yeah. We'll play it up later like we did something good.
Killings that I could find in the archives, which total more than 16,000 deaths at an absolute minimum.
And now the horrors in your book, of course, we were saying they speak of events that happened in the 1800s, but they also describe...
Well, it's 16,000 in one tribe is a lot.
Absolutely starvation rations.
Which we do see that tactic used elsewhere. I mean,
160 calories per person per day, which is absolutely starvation rations.
Well, we got that to look forward to. So I got my stuff following up, and in the meantime, things are going on. Here we go. He found a new one. I was looking through some old photos. Zach was, I think this picture is a little better. He's look, there's places in the mountains that are just sealed off. No, you can't go in there because it's too comfy, I guess. Who knows if it's comfy or not? Well, we were going to have a Bible study or not?
For the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. You know, I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
You're like a
everything is
doctor.
good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? You know, they're standing there with notes like, "Is everybody okay?" And you see these incredible-looking women, and so I sort of get away with things to do that.
So you have done that. Now, tell
Well,
me
I'll
what
tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else, and you know, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. You know, I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
You're like a
everything is
doctor.
good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? You know, they're standing there with notes like, "Is everybody okay?" And you see these incredible-looking women, and so I sort of get away with things like.
Former Miss Arizona Tasha Dixon also talked about this before and said Trump would just walk right into the dressing rooms while contestants were changing. And apparently the producers instructed the girls to engage with him.
Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half naked changing into our bikinis. To have the owner come waltzing in when we're naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position, and then to have the pressure of the the people that work for him telling us to go fawn all over him. Go.
Documented system involving a network of agents and agencies operating across multiple continents. French agent Jean-Luc Brunel, a close associate of Epstein, used his modeling agencies to scout young women and girls below the age of...
I think that guy got killed because he exposed Brigitte Marcon.
Often from countries like Brazil and Romania, with promises of successful modeling careers.
Wow, man.
Engage with him.
Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half naked changing into our bikinis. To have the owner come waltzing in.
Wow.
When we're use the modeling industry to recruit victims. And then on top of all that, Erica's old Miss Arizona interview just surfaced, where she not only doesn't condemn porn actors as against Christian values, but she says she respects individuals who work in the adult industry.
I have respect for the individuals that are in the pornography industry, not because they're degrading women or anything like that, but because that's their field and they are professionals. So I give them credit for being able to have a job and make money and stimulate the economy that way.
So do we even know who Erica Franceby really was before she was set up to be Charlie's wife?
You know what? This is where I lived close to here. This is where I learned how to swim in this pool. My dad was like going to help build a copper plant or something. We lived in a trailer park out here or something. Where's the pool? Yeah, right there. This is Olympic pool. Going this way. You could jump off the high dive here. Could come in town, play a little baseball, learn to play baseball in this area. I didn't move to Illinois until I was in 5th grade. How about that? You know, people got to learn how. People got to have to learn. There's a lot more to life than just pushing buttons. They got to deliver water. Watch how they flag this guy down. Doobie doo down down. Hey, Mr. Concrete Truck, are you busy? You know, there's going to be a race for water. I'm not saying it's tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, but for some people, it's tonight. Now you got to see this. You can't push it. What are you going to do with that rope? See the rope on the front? They're always ready. People waiting. They're going to deliver this water. You saw where they got it from. People be paying money for it. Here we go. Get it, boy. You better hurry. Never mind, they got it. Show me the money. You got to work. Let's see. Eat, drink, but his heart is not with you. For as he thinketh in his heart, so he is. Sometimes people lie to you. You know, there's another verse that says if you someone that's given to appetite, put a knife to your throat when you're sitting with a king.
Partly a war measure. There was a surge in the 1860s into Idaho, as there was in Southern Oregon, of people with strong Confederate sympathies who brought a lot of their ideology with them, and that was caused by, you know, the silver fields in Idaho.
Wow.
And so if you kind of go back and you look at the local baseball field, and that baseball field is the first thing you see when you come into Astoria. It's still used as a ballpark, but this it was a site of a Klan initiation ceremony.
Huh.
Have led to now and have been often forgotten or edged to the periphery of the public sphere and memory. Things some historians might know about are not taught in our schools.
Basically, California, Upper California, Oregon, Washington, they did this, and they went into Alaska and finished them off with the gold rush.
I saw a recent presentation by the head of the Oregon Black Pioneers, who said that while Oregonians voted against allowing slavery, they also voted strongly for Black exclusion. Between 1844 and 1866, he said, Oregon was legally only open to Black settlement in 6 of those 22 years. Poll taxes, limited rights, prohibitions against buying real estate, sundown laws, and outright bans on newcomers were part of a consistent design.
Now, you may think it wasn't that big a deal because they've been passing laws to make people say it's not that big of a deal. But the situation was they lived it not that long ago. This is less than 100 years ago.
Chilling. It's not just men in their silver shirts, but multi-generations of friends and families out in front of what the local Jewish transcript newspaper called a temple of hate. I talked to a man who taught high school history in Redmond back in the 1960s. And the relic of this lodge was well known to his students, although they didn't know the story behind it. But
I tell you what, I was consistent. It took 20 years before my dad gave up all of those racist tendencies. Somebody has an awesome name. It's the name, it's the repute, it's the reputation. It's not like technically that's my name. You besmirch the reputation. And that's really all a Gibborim is somebody that has a reputation. You could be a good, there's nothing in the Gibborim or here's the name. Let's see what we're looking at. Start with the verse. The mighty men, men of renowned, famous men. They were mighty men. And, Nimrod was one. But does that mean he was a demigod? Because God calls himself a Gimmerim, I believe. Isn't that the one where he does it? Let's look it up in the ESV, verse 17. There it is. For the Lord our God is God of gods, Lord of lords, the Gibberim, the great, the Gibberim, and the awesome God. He's not partial. He doesn't take bribes. You're not going to get one over. He doesn't owe you anything. He's the Gibborim, great, the mighty. Wow. The mighty men. The top. What we got here? Knowledge. I was watching some guy do a video. Maybe I can find it real quick. Go back to my history here. It shows what I've been watching. Where was that one? I think it's a new guy, brand new 60-year-old man. And now he's a flat earther. I don't know if I can give it too much more time because we're wrapping it up right now. You know what? I didn't show you the beginning of that video. We'll click it up. We'll get back on it. Are these guys? There he goes. I'm telling you, we're going to have to get some improvisation going on. I know that. Anyway, the one thing the guy was talking about knowledge and that, he was using the King James version of knowledge being translated as science, but it really is gnosis. You know that. Was it in Ephesians one time it's used as, I think they call it science. No, it's Timothy. But it's gnosis. You know the word gnosis. It means knowledge. It's where Gnostics come from. So I was glad to see a new person, 60 years old, become a flat earther, but he was trying to twist it towards King James Version only. Because we know what gnosis means. It means knowledge. It's not Sophia. It's knowledge. Now, Jesus can perceive things. Jesus can know things. That's another one that's close to gnosis. Let's see. Gnosis is right here, right? No. Is it the other way? Well, it's close to this word. To feel, be aware, understand, perceived. Jesus knew that some power went out from him. Everything we think, say, is preserved and it's going to be known. And we know that there's some wickedness going on in this world. Look at my algorithm. It's enough to, let's see. Here we go. End of civilization in Iran. The food's no good. They're faking the hoax and they're being exposed. People all over the world are getting ready to do what you need to get ready to do. Now, I have been watching some more mountain biking. Let's see. So there you go. Let's just hold on and see what's going to happen tonight. I hope they don't end the civilization. But for the record, my gut is telling me that before Hitler's birthday, this April 19th, this is the last 2 weeks of normal that we have left. We're coming to grips with why the world doesn't want to use the petrodollar anymore, of why they're sitting around scratching their head thinking, how did this happen? When technically, by IQs, Tartaria wins every time. United States isn't in the top 10 in countries that have the IQ. But we weren't afraid to use the genocide. Our heroes were raping what they called mulattoes. The crime of passing for white. Oh, I've got documentation here that you have 1 drop of black blood. You're going to jail. You married a white woman knowing that you have a drop of black blood? That's what they're talking about. And that's the cover-up. No one wants to admit that black lives didn't matter. Brown lives didn't matter. It's a flat earth nation. The golden age is definitely past. They're lying to people with orphan-trained brains that were handed over to public school education with a globe sitting on the desk and teachers programmed for hate from the very start. It's no wonder the Hegelian dialectic hits hard and it keeps coming. Some will not let go of the plow. No, it's been written on your heart. He's risen from the dead every day. We are servants every day. We want to hear, well done, you good servant, at the end of the day. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame. Adios, amigos, from the border of southern Colorado and New Mexico.